Verse for opening a sutra. The unsurpassed profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of aeons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. The Flower Adornment Sutra, Chapter 39, Entering the Dharma Realm, Part 3, The 10 Good Teachers of the 10 Conducts. 19. The Conduct of Wholesome Dharma. At that time, as the youth good wealth came out of the city wondrous light and travelled on down the road, he reflected with proper mindfulness upon the teachings of the Raja Great Light. He recollected the door of a bodhisattva's conduct of the banner of great kindness. He reflected upon the light of the door of a bodhisattva's samadhi, of complying with the world. He increased and grew in that sovereign power of inconceivable blessings and virtue from vows. He made firm that inconceivable wisdom of bringing living beings to maturity. He contemplated that inconceivable great awesome virtue of uncommon function. He recollected that inconceivable appearance of distinction. He considered that inconceivable pure retinue. He regarded the inconceivable karma that was performed. He produced a mind of happiness. He produced a mind of pure faith. He produced a courageous and sharp mind. He produced a mind of delight. He produced a mind of rapture. He produced a mind of rejoicing and celebration. He produced a mind of notability. He produced a mind of purity. He produced a firm and solid mind. He produced a vast, great mind. He produced a mind of no exhaustion. As he reflected in this way, he wept in gratitude. He thought, a good knowing adviser is truly rare. He gives rise to every place of all merit and virtue. He gives rise to every conduct of all bodhisattvas. He gives rise to the pure mindfulness of all bodhisattvas. He gives rise to all wills of dharani. He gives rise to all likes of samadhi. He gives rise to the knowledge and vision of all Buddhas. He universally rains down every Dharma rain of all Buddhas. He manifests the doors of vows of all bodhisattvas. He gives rise to heart to conceive of light of wisdom. He increases and makes grow the roots and sprouts of all bodhisattvas. Moreover, he had the following thought. The good knowing adviser can universally save and protect all those in the evil paths. He can universally proclaim all dharmas of level equality. He can universally point out all pathways of both safety and peril. He can universally open and explain the mysterious meaning of the great vehicle. He can universally encourage one to bring forth the conduct of universal worthy. He can universally guide one to the city of all wisdom. He can universally cause people to enter the great sea of the Dharma realm. He can universally cause one to behold the sea of dharmas of the 3 periods of time. He can universally confer predictions upon the multitudes in the sagely way places. He can universally make increase and grow all pristine dharmas. At that time, as the youth good wealth was overwhelmed, reflecting and recollecting in this way, a god sent by the Daskam ones, who constantly follows and attends upon an enlightened bodhisattva, said to him from empty space, Good man, when someone cultivates the teaching of a good knowing adviser, all Buddhas world at once are delighted. When someone follows the words of a good knowing adviser, he can draw near the ground of all wisdom. When someone can harbor no doubt or delusion towards a good knowing adviser's words, he will always meet all wholesome friends. When someone brings forth the resolve and vows to never separate from a good knowing advisor, he'll become endowed with acuteness for all meanings. Good man, you should go to that capital city, peaceful dwelling. There you will see the Upasika unmoving, a great good knowing advisor. At that time, the youth good wealth came out from the wisdom light of that samadhi. He progressively traveled until he reached the city peaceful dwelling. He searched everywhere asking, where can the Upasika unmoving be found? Limitless people told him, good man, unmoving is a pure maiden. She lives with her family, protected by her parents. To the limitless multitudes of her own relatives and retinues, she proclaims wonderful Dharma. Upon hearing these words, the youth good wealth became happy at heart. It was as if he was seeing his own parents. Immediately he went to the residence of Upasika unmoving. Upon entering that residence, he saw that the hall was filled with golden light, which universally illumined everywhere. Those who encountered this light became clear and cool in body and mind. When the light touched the body of the youth good wealth, he immediately attained 500 samadhi doors. Specifically, the samadhi door of understanding all rare appearances, the samadhi door of entering still presence, the samadhi door of leaving all that is worldly far behind, the samadhi door of the universal I, renunciation and attainment, the samadhi door of the thus come one's treasury. He obtained 500 samadhi doors such as those, and because of those samadhi doors, his body and mind became pliant and supple like a 7-day-old infant. Moreover, he smelled a wondrous fragrance, which was not something any gods, dragons, Gandharvas, humans or non-humans can possess. The youth good wealth then went forward to where she was. He respectfully put his palms together and contemplated her with a single mind. He saw that her form and features were upright, proper, and supremely wonderful. None of the women in the worlds of the 10 directions could compare to her, much less surpass her, with the sole exception of thus come ones and bodhisattvas anointed on the crown. Her mouth emitted wondrous fragrance. Her palaces, adornments, and retinue were all without equal, much less able to be excelled. None of the living beings of the 10 directions worlds would ever give rise to a mind of devout attachment towards the Upasika unmoving. If any saw her, even momentarily, all of their afflictions would naturally disappear, just as the millions of great Brahma heaven kings absolutely do not give rise to the afflictions of the desire realm. So too, if any beheld this Upasika, you should know the same was true of their afflictions. Living beings of the 10 directions, in contemplating this maiden, all had no weariness or satiation, with the sole exception of ones completely endowed with great wisdom. At that time, the youth good wealth bowed and placed his palms together. With proper mindfulness, he contemplated her. He saw that the sovereignty of this woman's body was inconceivable. Her physical characteristics and complexion were unequal in the world. Her bright light illumined and penetrated. No object could obstruct it. Universally, for the sake of living beings, she performed beneficial acts. The hair paws on her body constantly emitted a wondrous fragrance. Her retinue was boundless. Her palace was foremost. Her merit and virtue were deep and vast. their boundaries could not be known. His heart gave rise to happiness, and he praised her in verses. You have guarded and protected pure precepts, and cultivated extensive great patience. With vigor you never retreated. Your light now illumines the world. After speaking this verse, the youth good wealth said, Sagely one, I have already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, but I still do not know how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva path. I've heard the sagely one is skilled at guiding and teaching. I wish you would speak this for me. At that time, Upasika unmoving used a bodhisattva's gentle and soft speech that delighted the mind to comfort good wealth. She said to him, good indeed, good man. You have already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. Good man, I've attained a bodhisattva's door of liberation, of the treasury of hard to subdue wisdom. I've attained a bodhisattva's door of conduct, of firm and solid receiving and upholding. I've attained a bodhisattva's door of conduct, of uniting and holding the level and equal ground of all dharmas. I've attained a bodhisattva's door of eloquence, of illumining all dharmas. I've attained a bodhisattva's door of conduct, of seeking all dharmas without weariness or satiation. The youth good wealth said, Sagely one, what are the states involved in a bodhisattva's door of liberation, of the treasury of hard to subdue wisdom, up to and including the door of samadhi, of seeking all dharmas without weariness or satiation? The maiden said, Good man, they are areas hard to know. Good wealth said, I only hope the sagely one will avail herself of the Buddha's spiritual power and proclaim them for me. Because of the good knowing advisor, I will be able to believe, able to receive, able to know, and able to understand. I will tend towards, enter, and contemplate them. I will cultivate and practice according to them. Separating from all discrimination, I will reach the ultimate level, equality. Upasika said, Good man, in the past, during a kalpa named Living Filth, was a Buddha whose title was Long Arms. At that time, there was a king named Lightning Prediction. He had only one daughter, who was me in that former incarnation. In the part of the night when the music had stopped, my parents and brothers had all gone to sleep. The 500 maidens were also sunk in deep slumber. I was at the balcony gazing up at the stars and constellations, when in empty space I beheld that thus come one. He was like a jeweled king of mountains, limitless gods, dragons, the rest of the Eightfold Division, and bodhisattva multitudes surrounded him. The Buddha's body universally emitted a net of great brightness. It pervaded the 10 directions without any obstruction. All the hairpores of that Buddha's body gave off wondrous fragrance. When I smelt that fragrance, my body became pliant and supple. My mind gave rise to happiness. Thereupon, I came down from the balcony to the ground, and placing my palms together, I made obeisance to that Buddha. I also contemplated the mark of the invisible summit of that Buddha. I regarded to the left and right of his body, but could not tell its boundaries. I pondered that Buddha's fine marks and minor characteristics without any weariness or satiation. Inaudibly, I said to myself, what karma did this Buddha, world-on-one, perform that he obtained such a superior and wondrous body, that his marks and characteristics are so perfected, that his light is so full and complete, that his retinue is so accomplished, that his palace is so finely adorned, that his blessings, virtue, and wisdom are so pure, that his samadhis of uniting and holding are so inconceivable, that he has such self-mastery over spiritual penetrations and such unobstructed eloquence. Good men, at that time, that thus come one knew the thoughts in my mind, whereupon he said to me, you should bring forth an indestructible mind to dispel all afflictions. You should bring forth an invincible mind to smash all grasping and attachment. You should bring forth a non-retreating and unafraid mind to enter profound Dharma doors. You should bring forth a mind capable of enduring to rescue evil living beings. You should bring forth a mind of no confused delusion to universally undergo rebirth in all destinies. You should bring forth a mind of no weariness or satiation to seek to see all Buddhas without ever resting. You should bring forth a mind of not knowing satiation to completely receive the Dharma reign of all thus come ones. You should bring forth a mind of proper consideration to universally produce the light of all Buddha Dharmas. You should bring forth a great mind of making dwell and upholding to universally turn all Buddha's Dharma wheel. You should bring forth a mind of vastly circulating to accord with living beings' wishes and bestow on them the treasures of Dharma. Good men, in that Buddha's presence, I heard such Dharma. I sought all wisdom. I sought the Buddha's 10 powers. I sought the Buddha's eloquence. I sought the Buddha's lights. I sought the Buddha's form body. I sought the Buddha's marks and characteristics. I sought the Buddha's multitudes and assemblies. I sought the Buddha's countries. I sought the Buddha's awesome deportment. I sought the Buddha's lifespan. After bringing forth those resolves, my mind became firm and solid like Vajra. Neither afflictions nor those of the 2 vehicles could destroy it. Good men, after bringing forth that resolve, throughout kalpas as many as dust motes in Jambudvipa, I have not given rise to a mind of desire, much the less conducted myself in that manner. Throughout all those kalpas, I have not given rise to a mind of anger towards my own relatives and retinues, much the less towards other living beings. Throughout all those kalpas, I have not given rise to a view of self regarding my own body, much the less a calculation of that which is mine with respect to the myriad objects. Throughout all those kalpas, whether at death or at birth, or even while dwelling in the womb, I have never been confused or deluded, or given rise to a thought of living beings, or a mind of forgetfulness, much the less at other times. Throughout all those kalpas, up to and including in my dreams, I have never forgotten a single Buddha upon seeing him, much the less that which is seen with the 10 eyes of a bodhisattva. Throughout all those kalpas, I received and upheld the proper Dharma of all thus come ones, never forgetting or leaving out a single word or phrase, up to and including all worldly language and expressions, much the less that which is spoken from the golden mouth of the thus come ones. Throughout all those kalpas, I received and upheld the seeds of dharmas of all thus come ones. There was not a single word or phrase which I did not reflect upon, none which I did not contemplate, and so it was up to and including all worldly dharmas. Through all those kalpas, I received and upheld all those seas of dharmas, and I've never failed to obtain a samadhi pertaining to each dharma, up to and including the dharmas of worldly skills and crafts, and so it was regarding every one of those dharmas. Through all those kalpas, I've made dwell and upheld the Dharma will of all thus come once, and of all that I made dwell and upheld, I've never forsaken or renounced a single word or phrase, up to and including. I've never given rise to worldly knowledge except for the sake of wishing to tame living beings. Through all those kalpas of the seas of Buddhists I beheld, I've never at a single Buddhist place not attained accomplishment of pure vast vows, and so it was up to and including at the places of all transformation Buddhas. Throughout all those kalpas of the wonderful conduct that I saw all bodhisattvas cultivate, there was not a single conduct which I did not bring to accomplishment. Throughout all those kalpas of the living beings I saw, there was not a single living being whom I did not exhort to bring forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi. I've never encouraged a single living being to bring for the intent to be a sound hearer or Pachika Buddha. Through all those kalpas, I've never given rise to doubt or delusion about any Buddha dharmas, down to even a single word or phrase. I've never given rise to a thought of duality. I've never given rise to a thought of discrimination. I've never given rise to a thought of various differences. I've never given rise to a thought of attachment. I've never given rise to a thought of superiority or inferiority. I've never given rise to a thought of love or hate. Good men, from that time on, I've constantly seen all Buddhas. I've constantly seen bodhisattvas. I've constantly seen true and actual good knowing advisors. I've constantly listened to the vows of all Buddhas. I've constantly heard the conducts of bodhisattvas. I've constantly heard the doors of paramitas of bodhisattvas. I've constantly heard the dharmas of wisdom light of the bodhisattva grounds. I've constantly heard the dharmas of the bodhisattva's unending treasury. I've constantly heard the dharmas of entry to the nets of boundless worlds. I've constantly heard the doors of causes that give rise to boundless realms of living beings. I've constantly used the pure light of wisdom to destroy all living beings' afflictions. I've constantly used wisdom to produce and make grow all of living beings' good roots. I've constantly accorded with that which all living beings like and manifested a body. I've constantly used pure, superior, wondrous words and sounds to enlighten all living beings of the Dharma realm. Good men, I have attained a bodhisattva's door of adornment of seeking all dharmas without weariness or satiation. I have attained the door of uniting and upholding of the level, equal ground of all dharmas. I manifest inconceivable spiritual transformations of self-mastery. Do you wish to see them? Good Wealth said, yes, my heart wishes to see them. Yes, my mind wishes to see them. At that time, the Upasika unmoving, while seated upon a dragon treasury lion's throne, entered the Samadhi door of the adornment of seeking all dharmas without weariness or satiation, the Samadhi door of adornment of the not in vain wheel, the Samadhi door of manifesting the will of the 10 powers of wisdom, and the Samadhi door of the inexhaustible treasury of the Buddha seed. She entered 10,000 Samadhi doors such as those. Upon entering those Samadhi doors, there were 6 types of quaking in worlds of the 10 directions, as many as dust motes in ineffable Buddha Kshetriyas. They were completely purified. They were formed from Vaidurya. Within each world were 10,000 million sets of 4 continents. There were 10,000 million thus come ones. Perhaps they dwelled in the Tushita heavens, up to and including entering parinirvana. Each of those thus come ones emitted nets of brightness. They universally pervaded the Dharma realm, while multitudes and assemblies in the way places in purity surrounded them. They turned the wonderful Dharma wheel and enlightened the flocks of beings. At that time, the Upasika unmoving arose from Samadhi. She said, "Good men, did you see that?" Good Wealth said, "Yes, I saw them all." The Upasika said, "Good men, I only know this light of Samadhi, of seeking all dharmas without weariness or satiation. For all living beings, I proclaim the subtle and wonderful Dharma and cause them to be happy. But as to how all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas can, like the golden winged bird, roam and soar in empty space without any obstruction, how they can enter the great sea of all living beings, and upon seeing those whose good roots have matured, can immediately pick them up and set them upon the shore of Bodhi. How they are like a traveling merchant who enters a great jeweled continent, in that they collect and seek the treasures of the thus come one's 10 powers of wisdom. How they are also like a fisherman, in that wielding the net of proper Dharma, they enter the sea of birth and death, and from the water of love fish out all living beings. How they are like the Asura king, in that they can pervasively stir up the sea of afflictions in the great city of the 3 existences. How they are also like the sun, which appears in empty space, in that they shine upon the mud of the water of love and dry it up. How they are also like the full moon, which appears in empty space, so that in those who are receptive to being transformed, they cause the flower of their mind to blossom. How they are also like the great earth, in that they are universally level and equal place for limitless living beings to dwell, where they can increase and make grow the roots and sprouts of all wholesome dharmas. How they are also like a great wind, in that they are without obstruction, whichever way they go, and can uproot the great tree of all views. How they are like a wheel-turning king, in that they roam throughout the world, using the 4 attractions to gather in all living beings. How could I possibly know or speak of such conduct of merit and virtue? Good men, south of here, in a great city called limitless Tosala, is an adherent to an external way who has left the home life. His name is Going Everywhere. Go to where he is and ask him how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva way. At that time, the youth Good Wealth bowed at her feet and circumambulated her limitless times, gazing up at her in longing admiration. He bade farewell and took his leave. 20. The conduct of true actuality. At that time, upon hearing the Dharma, at the place of the Upasika unmoving, the youth Good Wealth single-mindedly recollected all of her teachings. He completely believed and received them, pondered and reflected upon them. Progressively traveling, he passed through countries and counties until he arrived at the city Tosala. At sunset, he entered that city. In the stores and shops, neighborhoods and communities, along the intersections of the 4 highways, he searched all around for the externalist named Going Everywhere. East of that city was a mountain called Wholesome Virtue. In the middle of the night, the youth Good Wealth saw that the grasses and trees, caverns and cliffs on that mountain peak shone with a brilliant radiance like the rising sun. Upon seeing this, he gave rise to great happiness. He had the following thought: I will certainly be able to see my good knowing adviser at that place. Thereupon he left the city and ascended the mountain. Then he saw the one of an external way, leisurely strolling on a flat and level part of that mountain. His physical characteristics were perfect and full, and he was radiating an awesome light which even the great Brahma heavenly kings could not match. 10,000 Brahman multitudes circumambulated him. He went to where the teacher was, bowed at his feet, and circumambulated him limitless times. Coming before him and placing his palms together, he said, Sagely One, I've already brought forth the resolve for Anuttara Sankhya Sambodhi, but I still do not know how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva way. I've heard the Sagely One is skilled at teaching and guiding. I wish you would speak this for me. Going everywhere said, good indeed, good man. I've already abided securely in the bodhisattva conduct of arriving at all places. I've already accomplished the samadhi door of universally contemplating the world. I've already accomplished the power of spiritual penetrations, which relies on nothing and is effortless. I've already accomplished the universal door of prajna paramita. Good men, universally in the various different places of the world, with various different shapes and features, various different conducts and understandings, I undergo various different deaths and rebirths in all the destinies, specifically in the destiny of gods, the destiny of dragons, the destiny of yakshas, the destiny of Gandharvas, Asuras, Garudas, Kinnaras, Mahoragas, the hells, animals, the realm of King Yama, as a human or non-human, and so forth, in all those destinies. Perhaps I abide in all views, or believe in the two vehicles, or again believe and delight in the path of the great vehicle. In this way, among all living beings, I use various different expedients and various different doors of wisdom to benefit them. Specifically, perhaps I expound on all the various skills and arts of the world to cause beings to be endowed with the dharani wisdom of all skillful crafts and artistries. Or I expound on their behalf the expedients of the four attractions to cause them to be replete with the path of all wisdom. Or I expound on their behalf all the paramitas to cause them to make transference to the position of all wisdom. Or I laud and praise on their behalf the great Bodhi resolve to cause them not to lose their intent for the unsurpassed way. Or I laud and praise on their behalf all bodhisattva conducts to cause them to fulfill the vows of purifying Buddha countries and saving living beings. Or I proclaim on their behalf the various different sufferings and retributions, such as enduring the hells and so forth, which come from indulging in evil practices, to cause them to produce deep repulsion and separation from evil karma. Or expound on the making of offerings to all Buddhas, planting of good roots, and the certainty of reaping the fruit of all wisdom, to cause them to give rise to a mind of happiness. Or I laud and explain all the merit and virtue of all thus come ones, one worthy of offerings, one of proper and equal enlightenment, to cause them to delight in the Buddha's body and to seek all wisdom. Or I laud and explain the awesome virtue of all Buddhas, to cause them to aspire towards and delight in the Buddha's indestructible body. Or I laud and explain the Buddha's body of sovereignty, to cause them to seek the thus come one's substance of great awesome virtue, which cannot be overshadowed or surpassed. Moreover, good men, in the city of Tosala, in all places within all families and clans, Amongst the myriad multitudes of men and women, I use expedience to manifest a shape similar to theirs, responding to their needs. I speak Dharma for them, that all those beings cannot know who I am or where I come from. My sole purpose is to cause those who hear me to truly cultivate good men. As I benefit living beings in this city, so too in the cities, counties, villages, and communities of Jambudvipa, in all the places where multitudes of people dwell and congregate, I benefit them in the same way. Good men. Within Jambudvipa, there are 96 groups, which each give rise to heterodox views and produce attachment. In their midst, I use expedient means to completely tame and subdue them, and to cause them to renounce and separate from their myriad views. As it is in Jambudvipa, so too in the rest of the 4 continents, it is the same way. As it is in one set of 4 continents, so too in the 3,000 great thousand world system, it is the same way. As it is in the 3,000 great thousand world system, so too in all the seas of living beings throughout limitless worlds of the 10 directions, I accord with that which delights the minds of living beings, using various different expedient means, various different Dharma doors, manifesting various different physical bodies, and with various different languages and sounds. I speak Dharma for them and cause them to obtain benefit. Good men, I only know this bodhisattva conduct of arriving at all places, but as to how all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas manifest bodies equal to the number of living beings, how they attain bodies that are no different from living beings, how with transformation bodies they universally enter all destinies, how in all places they manifest undergoing rebirth and universally appear before all beings, how their pure light pervasively illumines the worlds, how with their unobstructed vows they abide throughout all kalpas, how they attain the myriad unequal conducts that are like Indra's net, how they always diligently benefit all living beings, how they constantly dwell together with them, and yet are without attachment, how universally for them the 3 periods of time are level and equal, how with the wisdom of no self they pervasively illumine, and how with the treasury of great compassion they contemplate all things. How could I possibly know or speak of such conduct of merit and virtue? Good men, south of here in a kingdom called Vast and Great is an elder who sells incense. His name Utpala Flower. Go to where he is and ask him how a bodhisattva studies the bodhisattva conduct and how he cultivates the bodhisattva way. At that time, the youth Good Wealth bowed at his feet and circumambulated him limitless times, gazing up at him in longing admiration. He bade farewell and took his leave.